Hi everybody, I'm David Peltz and we're going to take a tour of my classroom. This is take 29, so I hope we don't have to do this one more time. As the students walk into my door, this is their view. They come in and they go to their seats, and as they go in and come in, there's 6 tables you can see, and there's 6 chairs at each table, so that gets kind of crowded. That's 36 kids. And you can see some of the students like to create a puzzle of their chairs at the end of the day, so the students that come in the morning need to take it down. As long as nobody gets hurt, we're okay. So here's the door at the front of the classroom. It's the second door. Most students don't use it, although they can. And by the door is my desk up here at the front of the room. And we can see there's all these papers set up for tomorrow. Papers to pass out to homeroom, papers I need for some of my students throughout the classes during the day. And behind the desk is my bookshelf. And most of the bookshelf is papers and things that I need on a fairly regular basis. The top shelf is reserved for my toys. So we start here with my no button, where I push it and it says, No. Very important to have when you work with middle school students. My R2-D2 canister, usually filled with candy. My Van Gogh action figure, and he's posable along with some of his paintings. And my all-important coffee mug over there. That one's my Disney coffee mug. So on the wall behind my desk, there's a board, and I have the class schedule because I cannot remember the schedule from one day to the next, when the kids come into class and when they leave. And I do have over here next to my desk is an extra table here with papers for the students. If they need quick access to something from the past that they need to finish, it's right there. And I have my all-important document camera, which is very cool. And the document camera is hooked up to my smart board. Yes, I get a smart board. I was the last teacher at the school to get a smart board. I guess they figured that Art didn't need one as much as somebody else. But the good news is I have the most advanced smart board because it is the newest. So I guess I can't complain too bad, except that when they put in my smart board, they covered up most of my whiteboard, which kind of took up a lot of space of things that I really need to use. Smartboard, I don't think it's all that smart because there are days it just doesn't want to work, but that's what happens. So around my room up at the top, we have some posters. There's Star Wars and Ant-Man. I like Marvel and Star Wars and Disney, and of course now they're all one company. I think one day Disney's going to own the world. Over here to the right is my yearbook section, and we can see the names of all the yearbook students and what editors and jobs, positions that everybody has, and then laptops that they use on occasion when we work in this room. Most of the time we're in the computer lab, but those laptops are mostly for my EL students, my English learners. It's nice that they have access to those, help them out with their assignments. And then some other important papers or posters from the district, telephone numbers and stuff, and then Star Wars poster that I painted. A couple of years ago they had a dance at the school, and they asked me to, was a Star Wars theme, they asked me to do some artwork, and so that's the one that made it out alive. I don't know why I can't get them all back, but that's what happened. And that one over there was from an Alice in Wonderland themed dance that we had, and again, that's the only one that came out unscathed. So there's a desktop computer which I use a lot, and my very own printer for my classroom. I'm one of the few teachers that has a printer for the classroom because I work with yearbook, and so we need to print out a lot of different things. Going off to the right is a cabinet for papers and blackline masters and things of that sort. And I do have access to the only pencil sharpener that is manual at the school. And it took the students a while to figure out how to use that. They were not used to it. They just put the pencil in and it didn't work. They couldn't figure out why until I told them they had to turn the handle, and it kind of all made sense. To the right of that, Underdog is guarding my supply closet. And it's not huge, but it does hold all of my supplies. And if I were to open that door right now, there would probably be a big mess falling on the floor. So I'm going to keep that closed. And coming over here to the right more, we have a sink for cleanup and supplies. It has a paint trap on the bottom, which is great. They have to clean it out every twice a year if I remind them. Otherwise, it gets overflowed, and then we have a mess on the floor. And then there's some other posters and things that I feel are just kind of neat to have. And this section over here, this is where I have art supplies and cabinets and shelves. Up at the top is where I have all this yearbooks for the school. So from the very first yearbook going all the way across. 2004 was the first one that I worked on, and all the way across to the yearbook from last year, and this year's hasn't come out yet. But it will soon. And then we have a list of all the supplies. So this is kind of nice. I decided to number all the tables, and each table gets their own supplies. So I can tell table number 1, and what these are all our pastels, and I can tell how well they've cleaned up because of their table numbers there. I have glue and scissors in these trays over here, and again, I have the scissors are color coded, so I know which scissor goes with which table, and I can tell if table 1 was missing a scissor, that they can just go find it and everything's okay. We have our paints are over here for when we use that, and our paint palettes, and again, these are all color coded. I can tell who's making messes, who's cleaning up properly, and again, as long as the table and the floors are clean and things are put away nicely, I'm not going to complain too much. And then again, paintbrushes, everything is numbered by table, so I can tell if table number 4, if they're missing a paintbrush, or if they didn't clean their paintbrushes properly, then we can say, hey, you got to go back and clean those, and it keeps everybody honest. This section over here is for my EL students. These are books that they need for our EL class when we're not working on the computer, and we have a homework day. I can support them in their other classes with homework, and so we keep up on all of that. Towards the back of the room, we're now at the back of the room. First of all, I have paper cutter. Most of the paper that I get is larger than the size I need. It's cheaper to buy that than it is to buy the size I need. The paper cutter is nice to have with the handle facing the back so that students don't hurt themselves, because they will play with that. Up on the wall is, so this is my 8th grade wall here. So 8th grade art, and I just picked a few from each student. Work really hard to try and get one of each student up on the wall so they can feel successful and proud of their work. As we walk towards the back of the class, my ugly box for magazines, and I don't have a pretty box, and these magazines get pretty heavy. We use these for collages, so they get used fairly regularly. We do a collage in each of the different classes that I have, and I'm always constantly begging for more magazines, which I get from teachers usually. So that just sits there. It's too heavy to move, and it's fine. It doesn't bother me. And then continuing along, you see all the outlets that I have. This classroom used to be a science lab, and they converted it into an art room just by taking out all the science stuff. But I still have all the outlets. I have a light box over here, which is great. It helps with differentiating instruction. When students need help with drawing things or having difficulty with, we can usually have them trace objects, and they can feel successful. This is my 7th grade wall over here. So these are the works of art for my 7th grade students. And again, I just pick a few from each student, from each project, and each student gets at least one thing up on the wall throughout the semester. The door we came in, and then this is my 6th grade wall over here. So again, 6th graders, and I try and get everybody to have at least one thing. Another sink for cleaning up, and this sink over here, it's a brand new because the other one broke. The sink actually broke. I was absent one day, and I came back, and there was a chunk of the sink missing, and there was sharp edges, and they took it out and they put in a new one. I don't know what happened while I was gone. The substitute had no clue. And then finally, these are cabinets where students get to keep all of their work. So each classroom gets a cabinet, and in the cabinet are all these shelves. They have tape with their name on it, and then all their work just goes on their shelf, and they can keep their stuff there, and it doesn't get messed up. Nobody goes in there to mess with their stuff, and it's a nice way to keep track of what they have. And so that is my classroom. So thank you so much for taking the time to view my classroom. I can't wait to see what you guys do and what your classroom looks like. So thank you very much, and we will have a good night. Bye-bye.